Measuring the Intangible, Project Seed, Social, Environmental, Economic Development. Measuring the Intangible.
Five, measuring the intangible. Project Seed. Let me explain the measuring the intangible. Project Seed is the application of once intangible is being measured. Project Seed is social, environmental, economic development. We will take into account all the 17 SDGs, split into these three areas, how we can take it up further. When we discussed earlier, SKI equal to 4x is identically equal to plus or minus 2. It's a statement where we talked about minus being in the different domain, that of the antimatter before the Big Bang, and that makes a lot of interesting connection, how it is connected to the three-dimensional universe. When we apply the same thing, what the universe has taught us, to our corporate innovation of various aspects of management, it becomes identifiable. That is the one which is from the domain of intangible, which has is a singularity. There is no plurality in that. That being the domain and is a powerhouse, that is an antimatter, therefore to be taken by an individual, that is the intangible. When antimatter and matter collide, it creates pure energy. But the starting point is what we are keen about in identifying and start measuring it. If you look at any of the human endeavor, creative ideas that come, like say for example Mahatma Gandhi, if you have seen that movie, he jumps from the parapet wall of Sabarmati ashram and declares, we are going to walk to Dundee tomorrow. With a fistful of salt in his hand, he really shook the British Empire. And that idea which comes at that point of time, before it was conceptualized, is intangible. Same case everywhere. Any innovation that comes, it comes with that sort of a time factor before it becomes an idea, before it is being conceptualized. And that particular place is the domain of intangible. And until then, it is not possible to know how it comes. We may know about mc square, E equal to mc square, but what it was that triggered Einstein and how long it took, we do not know. What took Jenner to come with a vaccine, with all the experimentation? That idea which has been brought in and experimented and then introduced is the connecting factor between intangible, metaphysical concept to that of a three-dimensional tangible element, which becomes measurable. What is not able to measure is the intangible factor. What is being brought in and in this tangible world is easy to measure. There's no problem on that. That's how sort of a eureka moment comes. Eureka moment comes. And that is the one which gives us an individual who brings about an idea into the tangible domain. And before that is what? It is a state of quiescence. It may take 1 minute to get that spark, or it may not come for a long time to come, which many of the IPRs are created out of experiments, out of various thinking process. So the innovation is a very important factor. How do you measure that innovative time? The one before that, the time element of intangible, and that is zero. That we do not know. It is before Big Bang. That is zero. But the moment that idea is conceptualized, when Gandhiji jumps from the parapet wall of Sabarmati river, you have the idea caught. This is what happens with the CEOs. This is what happens with the big companies. The idea sparks at a point of time. Then it becomes very easy. So measuring the intangible, we start with zero. That is a state of quiescence. Then it takes 5 steps, 5 more steps, total of 6 stages. It becomes a substance of quality. It's a very important factor. When we do any of these things, IPR with a validated, patented matter, emerges out of zero but ends up with 5 out of the 6 stages. The quality of it is a very important factor. Many of our corporate failures come because the moment an idea comes, the next 5 stages are not being put through. Without being put through, it could be Nirav Modi, it could be Vijay Mallya, it could be carried on, it could be Island Affairs, it could be such of these failures, which jumps. They do not go through the further 5 processes. With the result, they create something called the substance without a quality, and they try to act upon it. So there are 2 processes we're looking at. There's a creative process of a substance of quality. Number 2, action process, which is going to do the unique action to be taken on the particular matter. When a patent is created, from pin to plane, it's all same. From the plant to the babies to the diamond, the creative process are identical. Time factor for these 6 stages could be different. Baby is about 9 months. A diamond could take about thousands of years. It could also, an idea can come and get it executed for policy matter. Also about 4 days, 5 days. It is possible even on a single day. On an emergency basis, we can do that. And that's what the vaccine has come about. When it comes through, it may have that time factor between 5, further 5 stages, total 6 stages. The 6 stages are identical. Time factor can be reduced, but the 6 stages cannot be reduced. That's what I would like my participants of this module 5 to know, why it is so. When it is connected with, I would say, the Big Bang, and you get that state of quiescence and goes through the whole creative process to produce a strategy plan. It could be 2025, 2030 or 2100, whatever it is, for the corporate strategy plan being created. Going through these 6 stages, the failure in action plan cannot come if a clean strategy is being implemented. There's a corporate governance, risk management, earnings, accounting quality, and management quality. We are concerned about ERP all the time. we are always concerned about the quantitative elements. Well, you go through these 6 stages, and yes, I have produced a strategy plan for 2025. It must contain all the elements with regard to the cream reports. When the cream report based strategy plan is being created, your action plan cannot fail you. When it does not get created in this same pattern, you have a lot of failures coming through, and you are not in a position to identify, track it. As we said earlier, we track the objects, but we do not track the qualitative elements. Cream report provides that of 6 stages, which I shall explain what are the 6 stages are, how it is connected to the universe. Because when you say the matrix, we create a matrix. Create a matrix from 0, it goes to total 6 stages. Then you have how that one element is added for 1, how the second element, one more element gets to the second stage, one more element goes to the third stage, one more element go to the fourth stage, and the final stage is 5. So you have final stages elements, 5 elements are there. These 5 elements create your matrix, which is connected to the nature you can identify. And let me come to the second element, qualitative. When we create a quality substance of quality, one of the things is, for example, UNGC, United Nations Conventions Against Corruption. This is also being created by the United Nations body. Is a wonderful, very positive element of policy matter, anti-corruption. As we discussed earlier, my previous module, on the second formula, matter is the one where energy is waiting to happen. It is waiting for energies to be activated in that matter. UNGC is one such thing. None of the countries, even though barring 2, every country has ratified. Ratified has got is beyond signatory. Nobody has intently taken into account the implementation aspect of it. So energy has to be put through. Then only it goes to the first, as energy as a liberated matter. Until it has to be put through by the third law, which is intangible. When intangible, which is antimatter, collide with matter, gets energy being created, that initiative has to come by the third law, which is lacking as far as UNGC is concerned. Why I am bringing the point here, in Project Seed, I am bringing the social, environmental, economic, and development for each of it. Those 17 SDGs, which also had been created by the UN bodies, if we distribute, which I will show you next, how it will be taken to individual seed factors, that is social, economic, environmental, development, and bring about the measuring device, which is intangible. How we are in a position to bring about amazing changes. Economic development we are all concerned with, and we always do that wrongly anyway, because we track only the objects. Whereas in the case of various SDGs, again we are pushing into a different area without a common metrics. That's what I indicated in my report on World Economic Forum of stakeholders' capitalism metrics. We got to bring the common metrics. That common metrics is intangible. So I will just introduce you to Project C, and in the next module, module 6, I will introduce how the metrics could be created, what are the benchmarking, what are the various aspects of management, particularly on a strategy plan. You can, whether it's a project management or running a company itself, you say, here is a project management with a strategy plan for 2025 or that sort of thing. So this is module 5 on measuring intangible. Have a look at it. We'll come to the module 6 later. Thank you.
Measuring the Intangible, Project Seed, Social, Environmental, Economic, Development.
Project SEED is social, environmental, economic development. There are 17 SDGs which have been published so far, out of which what I have done is to separate in 3 divisions like social, environmental and economic. There are about 9 goals, SDG goals, which are earmarked for social, which had been derived from GCHW, that is Global Committee for Happiness Well-being. It's a report which we have been getting on an annual basis with the support of participation of United Nations. The GCHW have earmarked 5 critical issue areas. One is that health, education, work, personal happiness, and cities. These 5 issue areas have brought about 9 social SDGs in that 9. Then 4 which is of environmental, another 4 for economic, which I will come to that. Coming to that 9 SDGs, if we go back to 2012, there was a report on Julius Coyantes. He has written a report on World Happiness Index. This happiness index had been evading during that particular 2012 issue of the development aspects of economic development particularly. So more or less they have given up even today. That is, the social development goals are different from economic development goals. One of the things we will see in the economic development goals is the delayed submission of information system. The data is minimum 3 years old. I will come to that when I discuss with that the third factor. Coming to the social development issues of these 9 SDGs, if you go back to our earlier, the same module 5 of UNCAC. UNCAC is also a United Nations Conventions Against Corruption. It is a policy document that was prepared by United Nations. SDGs were also prepared by the UN bodies. The 21 core metrics and 34 expanded metrics of World Economic Forum's stakeholders capitalism metrics were also prepared. Now in 2021 January, they possibly are realigning for the purpose of getting the common metrics, which had picked up the various 21 plus 34 metrics from these 17 SDGs. This is a forum, WEF forum, which is promoting it, applied to various corporate. It was in 2011 when a similar one happened, that is same Davos conference, when the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon published this UNGC, United Nations Global Compact. The UNGC had, even now, has the 10 principles of 4 issue areas: human rights and labor rights, environmental rights, and anti-corruption. These are 4 issue areas of 10 principles. Now, UNCAC is different, UNGC is different, and 17 SDGs are different. UNCAC is the one which is, as far as I am concerned, is the best policy document ever being created, which is beyond any of these SDGs, and it is beyond any of the company policy statements like code of conduct or whistleblower policy. Everything that you are looking at cannot match with this UNCAC. In fact, I would advise the companies to have this UNCAC as a template for any of the policy statement that you are bringing. That's my purpose. Now, when we discuss about the matter and energy, the first law is liberated matter, energy liberated matter, which we show in the balance sheets. The second law is matter waiting to happen, energy waiting to happen. If you look at UNCAC, we discussed, is in the second law. UNCAC is a very good document where the matter has been cleared. That is, it started from zero, ended up with a matter of substance of quality. It had come, but action is not being taken. So it is when, as a creative process, it started from zero, ended in 6 stages in terms of metrics. Whereas in the action process, it also starts from zero and ends in 5 on a identical manner. That zero, in the case of creative process, that zero represents the state of quiescence, is from the domain of intangible. That brings to the domain of tangible domain, and it continues to do so when it reaches to the action plan. You have a substance of quality ready for implementation, and it doesn't start like in the case of UNCAC. That is in the state of insentience. It is zero. Then the next 5 stages, if you have when I will explain economic development. The economic development, if we have CAGR of say 15% or 20% or 25% or 40%, you divide that into 6 slots. Below 0, then 4, 25, 25, 4 areas, and above 100. So there are 6 stages which are being developed, and it is comparable with your creative process, where also you have the 6 stages of 0 to 5. There are 6 stages. If you look at the 17 SDGs, they are also in the second law. They are now governed by the second law. There you got to question, when there is a benchmarking being done of 17 SDGs comparable to UNCAC, where do they stand? Whether UNCAC has got a completed substance of quality, so it gets a value of 5. Whereas in the case of 17 SDGs, where do they stand? If it is below 5 or 4 or 3, that is the first approach one has to do for the 17 SDGs, whether it is in the social or environmental or economic. These 17 SDGs first establish what is the quality of these 17 SDGs. It is very important. So benchmark is available, metrics is also available. Metrics is by intangible, having created, the process has been created. You rehash, redo the whether it is a substance or quality or not, comparable with UNGC, that is one. Then action being taken. This is where is the desperate elements which are being done all over the world. If you look at the 17 SDGs, look at the social this thing, no poverty, and various things which we come across in 17 SDGs. It is being done in a manner but nobody else knows. When we look at the 21 core metrics and 34 expanded metrics, which World Economic Forum has come about as stakeholders capitalism metrics, they have picked up a few of the 4 pillars which they have done. That again is being imposed upon the corporate. That whether the corporate accepts or not, whether it is mandatory or just optional, one doesn't know. This is being as per the WEF report. It says they're inviting people to more number of companies to adopt these core metrics and for annual reports publication. My suggestion would be, how, if you look at the World Happiness Index, GCHW, or happiness well-being, if you look at the way in which it is being done, that Kayanta said is weird. Weird in the sense there's Western, educated, industrialist, rich democracies. They are the ones who have been using it. So when you go for a survey, about 1.34 billion people of India, you take a survey of about 10,000 and you can create that in no time, what your survey looks at it. And like that they do it for about 156 countries, and you create a happiness index of about 156 countries, ranking one above the other. That sort of thing happens, which is being seen once in a year and being thrown out in the waste paper basket on the next day. That's all about it. That's not the purpose of 17 SDGs. The 17 SDGs have to be measured. It get to be properly measured, and when we have that GCHW having given that 5 areas, health, education, etc., and personal happiness is also over there, and we look at it and compare it with individual 17 SDGs, and we have that incorporated in the project SEED. On social, 9 of it, 4 for environmental, 4 economic. I would like you to have a look at it. My presentation, briefly I will say about, I did created a blueprint for GSDP, Gujarat State Domestic Product, 1.5 trillion 2024. I will take it very briefly on that. First of all, the reason why GNH, that is Gross National Happiness Index, and GDP can never match. GNH comes like a survey, in no time you can get it. In GDP does not come. It takes about minimum 3 years before it gets incorporated to a national statistics, and then possibly exported to IMF and OECD and World Bank and other places. So you do not know what is the real representation in terms of the current GDP aspects. Here we are talking about GSDP of 1.5 trillion, which is fairly big as big as that of South Korea. 1.5 trillion is a fairly big amount. Now, we have that first and foremost, we got to get that current data current. That is one. Number two, you project a CAGR of, in this case, is 41.38% from 2018 to 2024 to reach $1.5 trillion. That 41.38% must be done by various sectors, which is I've indicated in this chart, table 1. Then, in the last column, I have created one workforce, I think column number 10. That workforce is what we have to bring about. That is the purpose of intangible. The intangible, that is the third law. When antimatter collides with matter, it forms pure energy. It means from the second, like UNGC and other things and various different areas in which 17 SDGs are sitting around, that has to be activated. That can be activated because they are sitting around because there's a matter, is a mass, is inert mass, all of them, all these policy statements. To be activated, it got to get the help of an individual who has got this pulsating energy. That is the antimatter of an individual. That is the intangible. When that is being done, you got to look at, not because somebody is ready to put about $10 billion or $100 billion, an entrepreneur has got a lot of money, he can do that, it's of no use. When we are going to create an organization of 500 or 500,000 people in a single company, okay, you have the workforce. That is the column number 10. Each and every sector, we got to identify the workforce. In this blueprint, what I have suggested is that 15 million workforce of GSDP of various sectors, they are the denominator. How they are going to trigger the triggering device of intangible will make a lot of difference in terms of the production and the subsequent growth in addition to GDP or GSDP as in the case. But for it, it is not possible. We don't go from top to bottom. We got to go from bottom to the top. When we go there, we are taking into account the 15 million workforce of Gujarat state. When we do that, we have also Project Seed. The Project Seed is that social, which is the health, education, work, personal happiness, and the cities. The guys are coming to the workplace in time or not, the city's development is very, very important. And I think is wisely SDG have brought that into account. But correlate that 15 million workforce in each and every individual company. If you've got a 500 people or 500,000 people, totaling 15 million, including farmers and agriculture is there, and various manufacturing is there, mining is there, the whole, a lot of them are there. There you indicate what these 5 issue areas, whether it had been accounted for or not. So it is not by survey, and as well as the environment. Environment is for the company, which again has to be, a lot of chemical companies are there, particularly in Gujarat state, and pharmaceuticals are there, and various chemical companies. You got to necessarily find out the environmental aspect of, say, the 4 SDGs which had been put through. So you have 15 million workforce were the denominators for both social and as well as the environmental aspects, are given a chance to measure, identify whether the particular organization where they are working, it's a very simple one. You can even do it on a daily basis with the app that is there, whether these are all being accounted for or not accounted for. I mean, we will come to the detail of it. That will be coming in the next module. how to do that. So when we create that, you have the energy factor being put through, and is as well as, that is for the economic development, as well as the national happiness index is also created simultaneously. You are measuring about 15 million workforce as to these 5 issue areas: health, education, and work, and personal happiness in cities. We have a data which will be able to signify that these 9 SDGs connected to the social development is being taken care, and it can be measured. It can be measured by the intangible. Intangible becomes the denominator, where it is in a position to verify and correct of as many people in integrating these 3 sectors. In simple, this is exactly being done. Project seed framework you can see, which we will look into it more in depth in my next module, module 6, which is inactivity based cost management. Activity has got a cost incidence, whereas inactivity a cost consequence. Measure cost consequence now. You'll find out how it is being done. If you look at the second law, with a matter which is energy waiting to happen, that is the inactivity. The cost of inaction is there in that by the second law. Unless we trigger the second law to the first law, that is, energy is a liberated matter, energy being put through. All the SDGs, all the economic development, and all the various factors which are connected to individual profits and growth are there in the second law. Whether the third law is going to trigger the device, is going to act upon it or not, is what is very important. So you have creating an index of inactivity as against index of gross national happiness index. In this economic development, you will create an index of inactivity, so that individuals, there is no separate corporate rating. If there are 500 people or 500,000 people in a particular company, if you can go through what I have written about the $1 trillion Indian agricultural economy, is a paper which I had already published. You can have a look at it. There you say about minimum about 13 million farmers individually are going to be rated, how they are doing it to reach the $1 trillion all India agricultural economy. Same case with the application for GSDP. So the 15 million workforce, whether they join this movement of creating, pushing from the second law to the first law, liberating the otherwise the would have gone for an NPA, is the crux of the project seed, where 17 SDGs are being taken care and the individual economic development also taken care. So you have a GNH and GDP put together for a country. Now GNH, that is gross national happiness index, is by survey. I don't accept that at all, how it is. Nobody accepts it anyway. 156 countries doing that GNH is wrong. Now you integrate that one with the 17 SDGs, and the 9 SDGs are relevant to social aspects, and integrate with the individual economic development. Both are available at the same time. And it has to be brought in on a timely basis. That is, we can't wait for a GDP data coming 3 years later. It has to come. The CAGR of say 41.38%, how it is being brought into CTGR, which is feasible only by this intangible. That is the return on intangible. We will discuss that and have a look at it, and we will take it up in the module 6, inactivity based cost management. That's my IPR. Thank you.
The takeaways. What you will learn. 1. Creative process. The creation of substance. Mass and energy have an equivalence. Energy is liberated matter. Matter is energy waiting to happen. 2. Every subatomic particle not only performs an energy dance but also is an energy dance, a pulsating process of creation and destruction. 3. The creation of substance is the natural process of corporate planning. What we are hitherto confined to look at as tangible matter that forms only fiscal assets, here we also look into the creation of ethical assets, as brought out by Project Seed, social, environmental, economic, development. The strategy plan encompasses both ethical assets and fiscal assets. Skills you will gain. 1. Creative process analyzed by way of the 6 stages of transformation to substance, a step-by-step chronologically successive advancement toward creating an ethical asset. 2. This provides the basis of measurement of 6 stages beginning from the domain of the intangible. 3. The proof of the transformation process from the domain of intangible to the tangible domain is by physics. The metrics thereby are mathematically derived. About this specialization. 1. Creative process analyzed by way of the 6 stages of transformation to substance, a step-by-step chronologically successive advancement, forms the basis of measurement beginning from the domain of the intangible. 2. The proof of the transformation process from the domain of intangible to the tangible domain is by physics. The metrics thereby are mathematically derived. 3. A science of metaphysics like that of the well-established mathematical and natural sciences is made possible. Course assessment. Write a report on 1. Establish why UNGC is a policy document of highest quality. 2. Differentiate between creative process and action process metrics. Check whether there is any other organization process in an organization. 3. The second law is matter where energy is waiting to happen. Where will you place NPA under this law and what is the solution the third law offers? Time required for this module 5. 3 hours. Cream Ratings Academy, Module 5, Measuring the Intangible, Project Seed, Social, Environmental, Economic Development. Based on the book, different concepts you can look for. 1. The new global brand name, Corporate Citizen. 2. Blueprint for $1 trillion Indian agriculture economy. 3. Project Elite for knowledge transfer. 4. WEF Report, Measuring Stakeholder Capitalism, a step towards corporate civilization. 5. GSDP $1.5 trillion 2024, a template for GDP-GNH combo. 6. Cream Ratings Academy, an introduction. 7. Module 1, Causality. 8. Module 2, Who are you? 9. Module 3, The root cause of economic collapse. 10. Module 4, Intangible defined, an empirical research study. And now, 11. Module 5, Measuring the Intangible, Project Seed, Social, Environmental, Economic Development. Please see description for details of presentations and availability of book for sale.